loses control. And this is the most damaging part of anger. There are hadith about love and anger, intense love and intense anger. When it goes out of control, rationality and acting rationally and reasonably they go out of the window. And as a result, our mind or our rationale is no longer in control. We become powerless to the effect of anger, and the angry person becomes blind and deaf to reasons. Whether you are doing it in your family, try to keep an eye on it. When dad becomes angry or rage, no matter how much you try to reason with the person, it's very difficult. Or the mother, or the children, or anybody else within the society. So irrational and out of control becomes the result of anger. There are hadith that they use the metaphor of spark, negative spark or satanic spark to express anger. There's a hadith from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir that says, uses this metaphor of, he says that anger is a spark that sets you on fire and then you burn others. And when you become irrational, out of control, you first get agitated and then you burn others. And the way that Imam phrases it, rage is a spark lit by shaitan in the heart and the soul of the children of Adam. Once it is lit, you need extreme power to be able to control it and tame it before it gets out of control. So anger is very critical. Although there are some benefits psychologically for anger to a degree, but certainly there is nothing beneficial to rage. With regard to qualities of the believers in the Holy Quran, it says, أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ. You need a degree of zeal, strength against the enemy, which comes from that beginning of anger, the degree of anger, the light version of anger. But the believer being hard against the unbelievers and merciful among themselves. Unfortunately, now the reality has changed. We are merciful to the others and angry towards ourselves. We support the Zionists against our own people. So that's something tells us about how the situation and how our society has changed. So moderate anger or lower level of anger is a source of protecting good. We need it in the Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. Unless you feel agitated, uncomfortable, when somebody does something bad, there is no incentive or zeal to stand in front of them and say, look, this is not acceptable. This is unethical, immoral. So that degree of resentment, call it beginning of anger, is necessary in Amr bil Ma'ruf. Otherwise, you become senseless and indifferent to what is going on around you. The problem is if we don't control it and allow this small anger to go out of control and reach rage, this is where it affects the mental health, leading to anxiety, depression, frustration and isolation, as well as physical health, but especially the spiritual health that we have to pay attention to. If anger is a domain in which shaitan penetrates, and from there waswasa and everything else comes, then it is the field. We go back to Da'a Makarim al-Akhlaq, Imam Zain al-Abidin salawatullah salam alayhi, that he asks Allah, grant me longevity, long life, so long as my life becomes used in your submission. As soon as it becomes a field in which shaitan feels free to roam, take me. I don't want that kind of a long life. Anger is one of those weaknesses within human being that shaitan uses to be able to influence and control. And waswasa comes in from here. From at least my experience and a number of other people's experiences, we have discussed this with psychologists, counselors, and so on, in our community, Muslim Shia community, Muslim in general, but the Shia community, rage has become among the top few reasons for breaking of families and sinfulness and divorce. A few years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the statistics about divorce was around 20-25% within our community. Now is on par with the Caucasian community, 45, 47, 48. Some of these marriages that they go to divorce, I have dealt with a number of marriages that they are 6 months. They couldn't live beyond 6 months together. Why? Because the notion of anger management within the family structure is not there. And we tend to copy the behavior of our parents to our next generation, which leads to huge amount of crisis. The effective family and socially disobeying Allah and sinfulness, both of these are very major crises, and particularly the rage and anger. There is a hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq that narrates from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. He says, كان أبي يقول أي شيء أشد من الغضب. What is it that more significant, worse than ghadab and anger? إن الرجل ليغضب. A person becomes angry and raged. فيقتل النفس التي حرم الله. You could, if you are not controlling it, it could get out of control and you may commit murder. You're not noticing it. ويخلف المحصنة, and even slander against innocent women within the community. Why? Because of this anger that is boiling in. So this is something, all of this because of uncontrolled rage and anger within us. It is something, it's a negative trait that we really need to pay attention to. These days, anyone who comes to my office or if they want to get married, one of the conditions that we have is to go through what I call premarital counseling. And a huge section of the premarital counseling is to do with communication and anger management. We ask them a simple question: what sets you off? What makes you angry? And the wife, the husband, or a bride and groom, they all will say one thing or the other. What makes you calm? Now, here is the difficulty trying to arrange between an extrovert and an introvert person that they are trying to get married. So we ask our clients to go through this test. And anger management courses are becoming more and more part and parcel of human psychology and marital counseling, because without it, there is a huge problem. Partners are asked to and taught how to control their anger and rage within their relationship, because otherwise, once this cycle starts, and if you don't interrupt it at the beginning of the cycle and allow it to go out to rage, explosion is going to take place and ruins the relationship. No matter how testing the situation is, one must be able to control. The verse in the Holy Quran, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. The sign of a true believer. Those who are able to control the rage and anger, and those who are able to pardon others. Quranic description of the righteous individuals are those who hold their anger in check. They don't allow it to progress and go further. One of the most effective strategy for anger management is called stepping back. We use it in even contemporary psychology. And the language that we have in our hadith, strangely enough, this hadith goes back to 1400 years ago, but it's narrated from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. إن أحدكم إذا غضب احمرت عيناه وانتفقت أدواجه. When you become angry, your eyes become red and your veins thicken, the blood rushing up. ودخل الشيطان. Imam uses the notion of دخل الشيطان فيه. فإذا خاف أحدكم ذلك من نفسه فليلزم الأرض. If any one of you was afraid that you are reaching this situation or this state, change your position. Don't stay in the same position that you were. فليلزم الأرض. Technically, it has been interpreted as lying down. But in contemporary psychology, they say, no, change position. If you are standing, sit. If you are sitting, lie down. If you are inside the house, go out. Take a little bit of fresh air. Change the circumstance and the situation so that the cycle of rage does not complete itself. فإن رجس الشيطان ليذهب عنه بذلك. When you change your position, shaitan is unable to encourage you to move forward and move more into this cycle of rage. And the translation, any one of you, when you become raged, his eyes become red, the veins in his neck are swollen, and shaitan takes over. Once shaitan takes over, rationale and reasonableness and thinking and so on is out. Under such circumstance, one should lie down for a while, or so that the filth of shaitan is removed from them. Technically, just these days they say step back. There is another strategy that we could use in anger management that Imam recommends. If you are becoming angry with the relatives, mother, father, which we are not supposed to get angry with, children, wife, husbands, etc., and instead of allowing ourselves to develop, to allow for this rage cycle to increase, Imam says, stop and grab the hand of the person that you are going to get angry with. Why? Because when you are rahim, part of your family, touch plays a major role. You are angry with your son, with your daughter, with your wife, with your husband, and instead of allowing this cycle of rage to increase and exceed its limit, go forward, grab their hand, and be silent. That's the critical issue. Be silent. Once you touch and you are silent, anger immediately drops. Your blood pressure comes down, and you realize, even you can do it with friends, that you become angry. So this is one of the issues. Generally speaking, because we consider our ahadith, consider that anger comes from a dark and fiery phase within ourselves, we remember that God can bring light. So the first step towards anger management is to take refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are hadith that somebody came to the Holy Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, I become angry very quickly. And it's very difficult to control myself. From the beginning of anger to the rage and explosion, the fuse is short. The Holy Prophet says, as soon as you notice, remember that shaitan is trying to fire this spark, and you take refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. It breaks that cycle. So we need to seek refuge with Allah. Keeping silent and stepping away from the situation is another way of controlling the anger. My advice, particularly to the brothers, during the month of Ramadan, generally brothers use this as an excuse. Because I'm fasting, I can go home, scream, and get angry against whom? My wife and children. This counters the spirituality that we need during the month of Ramadan, that you have to be patient. So even if you see something that it is sparking up or beginning of that anger, what should you do? Remain silent and step back. Don't allow that to fire up. Within stepping back, changing the circumstance could be sitting down, as the hadith said, or more moving away, taking a breather. One of the advice that we give the couples when they come for marital counseling, and we establish what sets them off, what makes them angry, then depending on the character of the husband and wife, or the bride or the groom, whether they are somehow an extrovert or an introvert, we advise them to take the necessary step that they should do. Some people say, I want to withdraw, be silent for some while, and I go to the kitchen, I go to the basement, somewhere else. Others say, I would like to go out. Other people say, I want to talk. So these are different approaches that we need to make the effort not to become angry in the first place. There's hadith from the Holy Prophet says, the strongest person is not the one that lifts heavy weight. The strongest person is the one that controls the anger, controls his anger, and doesn't let it to get out of control and go to the rage. But by then it's too late. Know that the damaging effect of anger as far as spirituality, and the same thing goes for riba and backbiting and everything else that we talked about last night, and slander. So, damaging effect of anger and rage on a human soul. We go back to the hadith that I started from the beginning, that Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-ghadabu yufsidu al-iman kama yufsidu al-khall al-asal." A metaphor. You can try it. Just get a small cup of honey, pour a little bit of vinegar on it, and see how very quickly it destroys the honey. Imam uses this metaphor to bring it to our attention that the role of anger in the destruction of our faith and iman and affecting our soul is similar to vinegar and honey, which means in becoming angry is a total destruction of our faith and our spirituality. We shouldn't. Another issue that we really need to pay attention to this during the month of Ramadan is supplication, du'as. That we ask Allah in various du'as to grant us the privilege of being able to control, not to sin, but to control our rage as well. This is another negative. Remember the first night of the month of Ramadan, I brought to your attention the goal of the month of Ramadan as a period of purification and spirituality is number one, to get rid of the negative characters. If we go back to Khutbah Sha'baniyah, at the end of the Khutbah Sha'baniyah, Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi wa stood up and said, Ya Rasulullah, ma afdal al-a'mal fi hadha al-shahr. What is the best thing we can do? The Holy Prophet said, Ya Abu al-Hasan, al-wara'u an maharimillah. To stay away from sinfulness. So the first step, forget about du'as. If we can change even one negative character during this month, it's better than not changing at all and then packing up 19th, 21st, 23rd with all the du'as. Because if we don't change our character, we come out of the month of Ramadan and we go back to the same lifestyle that we were in. The idea that we come out a little bit better and we continue with this spirituality that leads us through slowly and we improve it until we get to the next Ramadan if Allah wishes. If we don't change anything during this month, by making an attempt, even one negative character, whether it is ghadab, anger and rage, or whether it is backbiting, slander, lying or something else. We can break the time of the day into segments and say, oh Allah, help me, I want to stay away from anger or backbiting or slander or any of the negative sins for the first hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. But keep an eye on yourself so that during this hour you succeed. Then you can extend it a little bit more, make it 1 hour, 2 hours. 2 hours becomes 3 hours, etc., etc. This way, inshallah, we will be able to make a huge change by the end of the month of Ramadan. May Allah guide us all to a path of righteousness and makes us among His pious people, inshallah, during this month. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Any questions for today's lecture?
Yes.
So you're talking about the anger.
Little loud.
We were talking about the anger and so if we just so it's proven that if you touch someone, if you're getting really angry and you touch someone's hand, it's it brings down your anger. It's hard.
Can you repeat the question again?
Sorry. So you're saying that if you're very angry, just touch the person's hand and then you won't be angry anymore?
No, what I said was the hadith says if you are angry with people who are relatives or even close friends, by remaining silent and grabbing the hand of the other person, changing position, it shows a degree of closeness to the person, and that should reduce your anger, rather than allow the anger to go on and get into a rage. Try it with your dad. When he gets angry, go forward, or even mom. When she gets angry, go forward and grab their hand. And see the sudden change that takes place when you grab their hand, and that touch of a person brings their anger down. That's what the hadith is talking about. But the best thing is that you don't get into the best approach or strategy for anger management is not to get into becoming angry in the first place. Because you think of what would be the consequence of this anger on my spirituality, on my work during the month of Ramadan, etc. There are huge literatures, by the way, available online under the title of anger management. They use pictures, diagrams, graphs, and so on. Have a look if you can find something that don't make it too sophisticated or complicated, but a simple one, how the cycle of anger works and where should be interrupted before it gets to explosion.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib, assalamu alaikum ya Fatimah al-Zahra Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen, assalamu alaikum ya Hasan al-Mujtaba, assalamu alaikum ya Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, assalamu alaikum ya Zain al-Abidin, assalamu alaikum ya Muhammad Baqir, assalamu alaikum ya Jafar al-Sadiq, assalamu alaikum ya Muhtar Kazim, assalamu alaikum ya Ali al-Rada, assalamu alaikum ya Muhammad Taqi, assalamu alaikum ya Ali al-Naqi, assalamu alaikum ya Hasan al-Askari, assalamu alaikum ya Sahib al-Zaman, Al-Aman, Al-Aman, Al-Aman. Assalamu alaikum ya Sharik al-Quran. Assalamu alaikum ya Imamina al-Insi wal-Jan. Ajalallahu ta'ala farajak, wa sahlallahu makhrajak, wa zahurak, wa ja'alana min ansarik, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 5 times Amma Yujibil for the people who are not feeling good here and elsewhere in this world. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Amma Yujibul Mustarra idha wa yakshafu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على محمد Please pay attention for the Sunday school since the Daridera is ready to fully functioning, and then we'll be having the Sundays classes in person.